Let's keep the thing about the thing. There's a lot of noise out there right now about agent-to-agent technologies versus MCP ecosystems and the tokenomics of the situation. It's easy to get distracted. But here's the thing, the actual thing. Because of the ACP, you can use your own UI and change the agent underneath. ACP is a standard way for editors and other clients to integrate external AI agents using a common protocol rather than custom per tool integrations. Your team keeps its preferred user interface. The agent layer becomes interchangeable. Welcome to the Enduring Advantage podcast. I'm your host, Zachary Alexander. It's the classic drone maker dynamic. The question every middle market CEO asks, how do I help my people level up? The traditional incumbent answer, pick a platform, train everybody on it, hope you pick the right one, and then watch that investment evaporate when AI capabilities double over the next 7 months or less. And you have to wait for tier one buy-in. Tier one players always get sign-offs on platform improvements. You're not tier one. You're just funding their priorities. The drone maker posture, build on standards like the ACP, Agent Communication Protocol, so your company's researchers only have to learn one user interface. Also, AI natives don't call employees developers anymore. They call them researchers because AI development is about more than just syntax. It's about harnessing institutional knowledge. That's what the leveling up looks like. Commentators who cover traditional incumbents talk about middle market like it's a limitation. It's not. They say you're too big to be small and too small to be big. Squeeze from both sides. Too much at stake for startup style risk, not capitalized enough for tier one perks. Here's what they miss. That squeeze is exactly what makes the drone maker posture work. In large enterprises, there could be, like 14 layers between a decision and an outcome. Their analyst identifies an insight in January, it goes into a committee, gets reviewed by legal, waits for budget approval, and maybe sees daylight in Q3. For companies that have adopted a drone maker posture, decision to outcome is a straight line. Your 20-year veteran researcher, or even that newbie from finance, has an insight on Monday, tests it with an agent, and validates it by Thursday. That's not a limitation. That's adaptation velocity. Mind you, this is a competitive landscape where actions are guided by near real-time market events. Large enterprises have capital. You have proximity. Your researchers aren't buried in the hierarchy. They're close to the work, close to the customer, close to the institutional knowledge that actually matters. And here's what the commentators really miss. Middle market CEOs are betting on themselves. Survey after survey shows they're more optimistic about their companies than the economy. That's not delusion, that's earned confidence, validated by many years of sweat equity. You know your culture. You know your people. You know what works in ways that no consultant parachuting in will ever know. The drone maker posture doesn't work despite of your size. It works because of it. Speed, autonomy, domain depth, tighter feedback loops. That's the basis for enduring advantage. The commentators covering tier one will never tell you that. They're too busy explaining why you need to become something you're not, why you need to leverage the company's future for the privilege of scale. What most people really care about is how it affects their morning commute. You can read the morning headline without caring about the latest and greatest advances in the agent wars. You no longer care who has the best capabilities and when they may double. That's not your game anymore. Your game is, what are my researchers learning today? What institutional knowledge did we capture yesterday? What's compounding in our advantage layer? Let the traditional incumbents chase platforms. Let them burn budget on the next tool. Let them pick another winner every time AI doubles, and then start the retraining cycle. Or worse, sticks with whatever they have now and justify it using sunk costs. You build on standards. Your interface is stable. You have the capability of swapping agents at any time. Your expertise compounds. That's what a drone maker posture feels like at 7 a.m. When you adopt a drone maker posture, here's what's different. That platform is not the most important AI consideration anymore. It's identifying the right researchers to put on the team, empowering them with the best AI tools available, even if you have to create them in-house. A case could be made that everyone becomes a researcher, much like how Disney calls all of its employees cast members, because they all contribute to the experience. Your people all contribute to value generation, to institutional knowledge, and to the enduring advantage it creates. Your 20-year supply chain veteran, researcher. Your operational lead who knows every workaround in your legacy systems, researcher. The people who have been solving problems in your domain for decades. They're more valuable than a senior developer who mastered syntax you won't need in 18 months. That's a drone maker posture. Let's be real. Tier 1 companies don't value domain expertise. They think subject matter experts are nuisances because they keep telling them why what they're doing won't work. So what do? They buy first-gen AI system that's guaranteed to live and grow with your organization, as long as the AI agents have access to perfect data. Then they're good to go. Except they aren't, because data access isn't the problem. Data without context is guesswork, and context, knowing what matters, what's outdated, what the numbers don't show, that lives in the heads of your 20-year veterans and the new people just figuring it out, the ones Tier 1 treats like nuisances. That's your advantage. Your veterans aren't blockers. They're researchers helping you beef up the context, telling you what strategies work in which situations. There's more than one way to skin a cat. A drone maker posture stops people from treating expertise as legacy hires and interlopers. Starts treating them as valued members of the team. Before we go too far, let's talk about what researchers really do. Let's also talk about security concerns posed by researchers having access to context they shouldn't. IT silos are alive and well in most middle market companies, because this is where theory meets reality. The difference between prototypes that live in isolation on green fields and AI native apps that live in production. A researcher's job is evaluating, hypothesizing, experimenting with new ways to do things, validating the results, and surfacing institutional knowledge that's locked in legacy systems. They're not writing code for the sake of code. AI does that just fine. They're asking, what if we approached it this way? Does this actually work? What did we learn if it did? But here's the constant you're already thinking about. Not everyone should see everything. Your supply chain researcher doesn't need access to AHR compensation data. Your finance researcher doesn't need to see proprietary engineering algorithms. Those silos exist for a reason. Compliance, security, common sense. Drone maker posture doesn't mean tearing down the walls. It means building the right metadata address and issuing the proper keys. Standards-based infrastructure, ACP, MCP, OAuth, SCIM, lets the right researchers see only what they need to see. Governance baked in. Access patterns controlled. Institutional knowledge flows where it should, stops it from going where it shouldn't. That's not a limitation. That's what good architecture looks like. Your researchers get the context they need to do their jobs. Your security posture stays intact. Your IT silos become selective channels. Read that as pick the fights you can win, not barriers to intelligence. That's research-driven development in a real company. Not a startup fantasy, your company. Here's the part you won't hear anywhere else. The interface isn't the moat it once was, and the agent isn't either. It is about the researchers and how they work together to harness institutional knowledge. There's a dirty little secret what no one likes to talk about. Given the same data, companies will value it and prioritize its usage differently. You can call it context or institutional knowledge, but it matters when you're trying to counter tens of millions of dollars in IT spend from tier one players when consumer-grade AI and adaptive intelligence. You have to use small initiatives and experiments like sensors to build out adaptive networks so that your understanding of the business terrain is as up-to-date as possible. Every time your researchers solve a problem, they generate reasoning traces, how they approach it, what they've tried, what worked, what didn't. That's institutional knowledge captured in real time. Most traditional incumbents take a firefighter posture when it comes to institutional knowledge. Fix the most immediate problem. Don't waste any time looking for root causes. Problem solve, move on to the next biggest emergency. Think job security above everything else. A drone maker posture means that you take all of the adaptive intelligence available to feed your advantage layer. Every mission detail becomes essential to evaluating the relevance of the selected institutional knowledge. That compounds because it doesn't walk out the door every day to start the evening commute. You don't have to do it alone. You can create adapted hubs curated by partners to attack the positioning of traditional incumbents. Here's why that matters. Traditional incumbents think competition is a zero-sum game. They hoard data, they make enemies of their allies. It's often harder to partner with them than compete head-to-head. Adaptive hubs are strategic networks, not ecosystems. Those are fragile, keystone dependent, one acquisition away from collapse. They produce raw intelligence streams that members can use as they please. Obviously, you recruit people who are willing to make the same commitment. That's just good business. Adaptive hubs are strategic networks, not ecosystems. Those are fragile, keystone dependent, one acquisition away from collapse. They produce raw intelligence streams that members can use as they please. Obviously, you recruit people who are willing to make the same commitment. That's just good business. The adaptive hub uses its own resources and shouldn't require members to divulge any long-standing relationships. For example, your researcher analyzes the stream and surfaces a logistic bottleneck in the traditional incumbent supply chain. You start producing offerings that better meet the needs of the market. It doesn't have to be a massive opportunity, just enough to enlarge that kink in the armor. That's not altruism, that's strategy. The tier one companies have scale. You have coordination. They have budget. You have trusted strategic networks purpose-built for the moment. When capabilities double every 7 months, no single middle market company can keep up with everything. But a network of middle market companies, each contributing to the intelligence stream, each capturing institutional knowledge as they see fit, each feeding their own advantage layers. That's a drone maker posture that compounds across the organization, that generates a threat saturation from multiple angles. That's a defensive position tier one companies can't buy their way around. What used to be open source is now an adaptive swarm hunting opportunity. Leveling up has real consequences in a world where capabilities of the AI ecosystem double every 7 months. This means creating a system that maintains your position as you reach for the next handhold. Traditional incumbents are always resetting. New platform, new training, new learning curve. Either every AI cycle starts from ground zero, or they are attempting to use data to substitute for domain expertise. There was a case study taught in business schools back in the day about relying too much on numbers to make decisions. In football, they call it the eye test versus analytics. It means that you have to have a human in the loop, an operator to check the landmarks to verify that you are on course. That's what researchers do. They're not just feeding the machine, they're verifying, adjusting, bringing judgment that no data set contains, identifying limitations of one strategy and suggesting another. Every cycle builds on the last. Your researchers get better, your advantage layer gets deeper, your institutional knowledge compounds. That's the drone maker posture in action. You're not just keeping up. You're pulling yourself up while maintaining a solid footing. There's an old adage that says, once you get started, you can't reach for something without letting go of something else. You need expertise to guide that process. In-house veterans and external contractors with specific domain knowledge. Let's talk about what happens if you don't move. If you cling to the side of the mountain or rest on the current plateau. What will it mean to wait for the dust to settle? The dust isn't settling anytime soon. Tech revolutions bring chaos and uncertainty in their wake. AI capabilities doubled every 7 months. By the time you finish your evaluation, scoped the pilot, gotten budget approval, and scheduled the kickoff, the landscape could have shifted twice. The tool you were evaluating, already obsolete. The competitor you were watching is matured by 2 cycles. That's not fear-mongering, that's math. Here's what's waiting actually costs you. Every month you don't have researchers generating reasoning traces. You're not building your advantage layer. That's not standing still, that's falling behind. Because your competitors, the ones who moved, are compounding. You're not. Every quarter you spend watching the opportunity space, drone makers are locking in relationships, the talent, the positioning you could have had. They're not waiting for clarity, they're creating it. And here's the part that really stings. Your 20-year veterans, they're not getting any younger. That institutional knowledge you've been meaning to capture, it walks out the door a little every day and never comes back. Departures, quiet quitting, the context you need for your advantage layer depreciates. Waiting for the dust to settle is a decision. It's a decision to let your competitors compound their advantage while you analyze their results, to let your institutional knowledge erode while you plan, to fund Tier 1 priorities and hope for good outcomes. The drone maker posture doesn't require perfection, it requires motion. Small initiatives deployed as sensors, researchers empowered, institutional knowledge captured before it's gone. You can start messy or you can start later, but you can seldom do both. The adoption of the ACP will end any notion of a coding agent platform war. Your researchers won't care about which agent drives the AI coding process. That will be a discussion for your architecture team and others who are specialized in tracking the differences in agent technologies. And that's exactly how it should be. Your supply chain researchers shouldn't be debating Claude versus GPT versus Gemini. They should be capturing institutional knowledge about logistics bottlenecks. Your finance researchers shouldn't be evaluating AI models or benchmarks. They should be generating reasoning traces about cash flow patterns. The platform wars were a distraction born of the Tier 1 vanity, a very expensive distraction. Traditional incumbents have spent the last 2 years picking winners, building integrations, training teams on specific tools, and starting all over again when new capabilities emerge. The drone maker posture means building with standards as the scaffolding that holds everything together. This limits the decisions that the AI coding agent has to make. You simply have to build out features using even more standards where possible. Agents are democratized. All that lock-in investment monthly depreciation is avoided. Let the architecture team handle agent selection. Let them swap providers when something better comes along. Your researchers stay focused on what actually compounds, domain expertise flowing into your advantage layer. The platform war is over. It's time to fight for a smooth transition to AI native landscapes. And that's a battle middle market companies can win.